Well, Eddie, back at HQ, it's a rare non-fight week for us. How does that look from the eyes of Eddie Hearn?
Sad, really.
Lots of planning, I guess.
Yeah, really we have a show every week. Very occasionally, there's no show, which is this weekend. Just a time to really plan this week, get a few days in the office, recover, regroup, and really push the shows that are coming up. Sometimes when you've got a massive show like Joshua against Ngannou, you sometimes throw everything into that and then sort of wake up and say, wow, Sheffield's in 2 weeks, and Vegas is in 4 weeks, and Manchester's in 5 weeks, and Catterall against Taylor and Haney Garcia is 6-7 weeks. So a huge run coming up for us, and really looking forward to Sheffield incoming.
We'll touch on all of those shows coming up, but let's just reflect 4 days on from knockout chaos in Riyadh on Friday night. Certainly lived up to its billing in the main event. Just your reflections on Anthony Joshua's impressive win. Yeah,
I think nothing resonates worldwide like a knockout, and especially a knockout like that. AJ's stock has really just rocketed, and he's back in his position, in my opinion, as the biggest draw in the sport. The knockout, goes viral, goes into every news and media outlet, every social media account, and it was one of the most brutal. I saw some people say it wasn't a one-punch knockout. It was a one-punch knockout. Oh, well, he dropped him previously in another round. That was, the previous knockdown. This was a one-punch knockout, and that, there's nothing like it. And the rise of Anthony Joshua has been quite incredible, because, to be honest with you, sitting there back in 2022 with Alexander Usyk, after that fight, with tears in his eyes, the frustration of defeat, back-to-back losses, I knew he'd put everything into trying to come back. But did I think he could reach the heights? Did I think that he could regain the confidence and get to the levels that he is now? Maybe not. And it's just a lesson for everybody. Consistency counts. He's never taken his foot off the gas. He's never taken a shortcut. Now he's found the confidence. Obviously, everything with Ben and Leigh Wiley is going incredibly well. And I think, honestly, the best Anthony Joshua we've ever seen. An all-round fighter now, with experience, with ability to defend, with improved footwork, but also with that tenacity, that ferocity back, and that spitefulness, and punching, without question, harder than he's ever punched before.
Yeah, you look at some of the footage backstage before with AJ on the pads with Ben, and it was clear that was almost the shot they were working on, punching through the target. Like you say, how aggressive is this Anthony Joshua under Ben?
I saw it, the first time I saw it was in the Otto Wilding fight. I went backstage, I was in the changing rooms, and I've never seen anything like it. I go back to the Klitschko days when he was with Rob and he was firing on all cylinders. The confidence was there, the punch power, everything. And he lost that a little bit in preparation. Over the years, just in the changing rooms, I didn't feel that as much. And when I walked in for the Otto Wilding fight, I just thought, oh my God, I haven't seen this for years. And it was a mismatch. And then again, for the Ngannou fight, punching even harder. He's really got him, obviously, sitting down in shots, but just believing, and like you said, punching through the target. And yeah, the right hand is one of AJ's greatest weapons. We've seen it knock many people out. He has a huge arsenal in his bank in terms of shot selection, but the right hand is one of his signature shots. And against a more limited fighter, certainly someone that will occasionally switch to southpaw, that was the shot that was going to cause the damage.
And the activity, I think it was 4 fights in 340 odd days. How important has that been?
Yeah, it's a lesson to all fighters at the top level. Something that has probably starved AJ's progression a little bit is the inactivity. When you've got mandatories coming in all the time, when you've got all these commercial responsibilities, you're really fighting twice a year. You must be fighting 3 times a year, minimum, even as a huge name. And through COVID, that evaporated into sometimes once a year. So it was no good for him. And when he lost the belts, as disappointing as it just gave him the ability to just be free, and for us to put a schedule together where he could actually work. Like he said, he was a little bit lost, and he was searching for the answers. You can't just search for the answers in the gym. You got to search for them under the bright lights and under the pressure. And that's what he did, in the Franklin fight, in the Hellenius fight, and once he got to the point with Ben in the Wilding fight, that activity had really kicked in. And 4 fights in 11 months is an unbelievable schedule. And you saw the same with Joseph Parker, what it's done for him as well. So you see these big names at the moment fighting once a year, sometimes not even twice a year. It's no good for you, and what AJ did was he took smaller money, sometimes a smaller stage to get it right. And now he's on the biggest stage of them all. As I said, I believe, the biggest draw in world boxing.
We know AJ's name is found in the hat to fight the winner of Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, who fight on May the 18th, and then seemingly straight away after an immediate rematch. What sort of time frame do you think AJ can get in with the winner of those two?
Most fighters will finish a fight and they'll get back in the gym on a Sunday or the Monday. I'm ready. And then just the adrenaline calms down, and we have to take into consideration that he has boxed 4 times in 11 months. And if you think about it, that's 4 camps. So 4 camps, 10 weeks a camp, that's 40 camps in less than 52 weeks. It's not a lot of time off. But at the moment, he feels great. The confidence is there, and I'll sit down with Freddie and 258 and AJ over the next couple of weeks and just plan what we're going to do. No decision will be made, in my opinion, before the Fury-Usyk fight, because I'm still a firm believer that if Tyson Fury wins that fight, His Excellency will do everything he can, regardless of the 2-fight deal, to make what is the biggest fight in the history of the sport. And that's Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury. So, there's a potential Hrgovic fight there for the IBF world title. Really, there's lots of opportunities for AJ, but I think it's unlikely we'll make a definitive decision before we see who is victorious on May the 18th.
And in that 2 months, presumably he'll be taking a well-earned rest.
Yeah, AJ is always in the gym, and that's something that all fighters should learn from. He doesn't balloon in weight, he doesn't get out of shape. He stays true to the game, and he's always ready to enter camp. And he knows what the activity has done for him, and he's certainly not looking to just become inactive. But I think a rest, small rest, is definitely in order.
Elsewhere on the card, Israil Madrimov turned in a sensational performance to win the WBA 154-pound title. Literally minutes after, you're there on Twitter going back and forth with Tszyu.
Yeah.
Is that a fight that can realistically happen?
Yeah, look, I rate Tszyu. I think he's great. I think he's a very, very exciting fighter, strong boy. And so is Madrimov. And I think Tim genuinely cares about legacy and genuinely cares about belts. And if you're a world champion, you should be looking at all world champions. And that's the same now for Israil. So, Israil will have his eyes on the likes of Tszyu, other belt holders in the division, and also on Terence Crawford. That's going to be a big fight in the division if Terence moves up, which we think is inevitable. But I love Israil Madrimov against Tszyu. And the thing is with Israil, he's never been spoiled. So he's up for going to Australia. We can do the fight in Uzbekistan. I'm not sure Timmy will be all over that yet, but he's got to beat Keith Thurman, which I expect him to do. But I think Madrimov against Tszyu is a brilliant unification. It's an absolute war. And, that was a massive night. That was a huge 6 days for us, with Ray Ford winning the featherweight world title, Israil winning the 154-pound world title. So 2 new world champions to the Matchroom stable. We have by far the most world champions out of everybody. And, that was a big win in a big division, but great performance.
For one man who's sort of on his march towards a world title, Justis Huni had to come for a rocky last round, but still, development, he's only 24 years old.
Yeah, I think when you think about it, are we moving him a little bit too quickly? The 8th fight was against Andrew Tabiti, which was a tough fight in Mexico, former world title challenger. And the 2nd fight, the 9th fight, was against Kevin Lerena, who's a former world champion at cruiserweight, and a bridgerweight world champion. But they want to move him quick, and he has got a fantastic amateur pedigree as well. I want to see Justis. He has to improve off the back of that performance. It was a good win. Obviously got hurt badly in the last round. But I want to see Justis fight bigger heavyweights, because at the moment he's fighting small, fast heavyweights, which is what he is. So I want to see him use his attributes against someone like a big, strong heavyweight, who is a little bit slower, whose feet might not move as fast, because that's when I think you're going to see the best of Justis Huni. But certainly, for a 9th fight at 24 years of age, great performance.
I saw you have quite an in-depth chat with him after the fight, just by the change room area. Is that the sort of stuff you was relaying to him?
I like to know how the fighter felt. I said to him, I felt you looked a little bit flat at times. And he said, yeah, I felt that. because it's a big occasion. You know, you can't underestimate the pressure, the platform, the stage, everything they're seeing fight week. You know, it's a big step up, and so was the fight against Lerena. I just said, you know, there's a few shots that I felt like he should have thrown, that I thought felt the same in the Tabiti fight, and you know, he's never going to be the biggest puncher in the division. He can punch, but he's got great speed, great movement, and that's what's going to be some of his biggest attributes. And for that, I want to see him fight a bigger heavyweight, and he's got a massive future.
Now, next up, Sheffield, March the 23rd. I spoke to our boxing team earlier on, and they confirmed I can break this news. There is a new title on the line for Dalton Smith and Jose Zepeda, WBC silver title.
Yes.
Just a nice little added incentive.
Yeah, I mean, this fight is a big fight on the world stage. I mean, we keep talking about, you know, other domestic opponents that don't want to fight Dalton Smith. Forget that. This is a fight that puts you well in contention for our elite 140-pounders. You know, obviously we have Israil Matias, you've got Devin Haney fighting Ryan Garcia, but you've got Liam Paro, you've got Richardson Hitchins in a final eliminator. You know, you've got Dalton Smith. You've got so many other fighters up at 140 now. Jack Cattrall's fighting Josh Taylor. I mean, so there's some huge fights out there, but Zepeda, proper fight. I mean, he punches really hard. You see him in tremendous fights with Regis Prograis, just went the distance and lost on points to Richardson Hitchins. This is a serious fight, and we got to really make sure, and I know Dalton will be, switched on for this one, because this is a fight that can end at any moment, and Zepeda is coming to win. He must win this fight to get himself back in contention, and the WBC silver title, which is, you know, it's a major title, will put Dalton top 5 and maybe top 3 in that WBC and start forcing his own mandatory position at a shot at whether it's Devin Haney or particularly Sandor Martin that could come available.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Sandor there. I guess that is potentially an opportunity and a route for Dalton should he come through.
Listen, if the title becomes vacant and they order Sandor Martin against Dalton Smith, they're jumping all over that fight for the world title. So that's what could be at stake for this fight, and it's a massive fight for Sheffield. You know, he's the flag bearer for boxing in Sheffield, unquestionably. It's a tremendous card, and it's a big moment for the career of Dalton Smith.
We saw Dalton at the weekend at the Sheffield Wednesday game, just soaking up the atmosphere and visualising. He needs to win this to have any kind of dream to fight at Hillsborough in the next year or two.
Yeah, we're building nicely, you know, from 3,000 to 4,000 to probably 6,000 this time around. The crowds are continuing to increase, and as he moves forward and hopefully beats Zepeda, you know, those kind of fights at Hillsborough, we've seen it, we've done it before with Kell Brook. You know, he was doing good crowds at the arena. We went to Bramall Lane, we did 20,000 or whatever it was, 24,000. It was a massive night, and Dalton can do the same in time at Hillsborough, but must win this fight on the 23rd.
We're obviously not looking past Zepeda, but in the background there is a purse bid due, I think the first week of April. You was quoted last week saying you don't think Boxer will take that fight. Have they officially pulled out the purse bid yet?
Yeah, they've messaged Frank Smith to say they won't be taking the fight. I don't know what the delay is, in all honesty. It frustrates the life out of me that you want to mess around with a fighter's career when you have no intention of taking the fight. So, look, that's their business. But Adam Azim is not ready for Dalton Smith. Dalton Smith is on another level at the moment. Adam's a great young fighter. But you can't call out Keyshawn and talk about Teofimo and duck Dalton Smith, which really is what they're doing. But if they're not ready, they're not ready. And that's fine. But just get out of our way. You know, don't hold us up, don't mess around. It's not in the best interest of the sport. And we've just got to focus on Jose Zepeda.
And should Dalton come through that, presumably he'll still be mandatory for the European and will be ordered to fight.
Yeah, for sure.
The next
I mean, look, at the same time, you know, if we beat Zepeda, we could be in line for a final eliminator or even a shot at the world title.
Just elsewhere on the card, Chief Support and Sandy Ryan, Terri Harper. I've seen them spar before. If it's anything like that, this is going to be all action.
This is a brilliant fight. You know, all British world title fights are rare but compelling. And Sandy Ryan against Terri Harper is just a brilliant fight. You know, I think it's really going to suit Terri Harper dropping down to 147. She's not a 154 pounder. And I think it will really help her being back at that weight. Sandy's got the bit between her teeth after getting robbed against Jessica McCaskill. You know, it's a big fight for her. Terry's sold a huge amount of tickets, so has Sandy. She's been training really hard in Las Vegas, looks in great shape. But you know, Steffi Ball and Terri Harper will come in top shape with everything on that night. It is a brilliant fight. Sheffield against Derby. for the WBO world title, and it's a 50-50 fight. You know, I think maybe Sandy's last performances you give her the edge, but Terri's remarkably looking to become a 3-division world champion. So it's a great story, and fair play to both girls for taking it. Exactly the kind of fights we want to see, and I can't wait for that fight.
And another 50-50 fight on the card, the one I'm looking forward to the most, is Ishmael Davis and Troy Williamson. I mean, that's just got carnage all over it.
Yeah, and Ishmael Davis is, you know, the classic winner stays on. Great performance last time out in Birmingham. Troy Williamson, who gives us great entertainment and value every time he fights. And I've always said, don't be afraid to lose if you're in great fights. And that's Troy is a great example. It's going to be a brutal fight, and exactly the kind of fight that we want to see on a great undercard.
Just one more fight I want to touch on. Campbell Hatton steps up in his 15th fight to contest for the same belt that his dad won somewhat in 99, I think it was. Why was now the right time to pull the trigger?
Because he's had so many fights. You know, he's had all the education he needs. Now it's time. This is a 50-50 fight for Campbell Hatton. Well beyond the levels that he's boxed before, and someone with a golden opportunity to win, someone that can win, someone again that sold a lot of tickets. And it's time to find out about Campbell Hatton. There's many more levels we hope he gets beyond, but this is a level he might not pass, and it would be devastating for his career if he didn't pass it. So the pressure is on Campbell Hatton, and you know, I believe he'll come through, but it's going to be a proper fight.
A couple of weeks after that, big night in Las Vegas, co-headline Diego Pacheco and Richardson Hitchins. How far away are both of those guys from world title aspirations?
Two of our, like you said, our real young charges. You just saw Ray Ford win a world title. You know, Diego's in a tough division to capture a belt in at 168. He's probably 2 to 4 fights away from challenging for the world title. I think this kid is one of the most exciting young, it's not even a prospect anymore, but talents in the world. He's so exciting. He's got a really good fight on April 6th as well. And Richardson Hitchins, who, you know, is really coming through strong at 140 pounds. You know, a lot of people feel he may be the best of the division. This is a final eliminator to fight Israil Matthias, which would be a massive fight for Richardson and Matthias. And he's hard to beat, Richardson. Loads of skill. Lemos is all action. So the styles here are perfect. And it's a really big night in Las Vegas for us, but also those two.
Week after in Manchester, Jordan Gill, Zelfa, Barrett. Must win for both of them.
Yeah, people talk about trade fights. This is kind of a little bit of a trade fight. And when people say it's a trade fight, that means it's a brilliant fight. This is a brilliant 50-50 fight between two outstanding world-class 130-pounders that just happen to be British. Jordan coming off that great knockout over Mick Conlan in Belfast. Zelfa, great fight against Rakimov, came back with a couple of wins. The winner gets a world title shot, and fair play to both of them for putting it on the line. You know, it's a fantastic card there. You've got Ellie Scottney unifying the division. You've got Rhiannon Dixon fighting for the world title as well. Cameron Bong against Jordan Flynn, I love. Look out for Gomez Jr. against Kane Baker. It's going to be an absolute war. So those Sheffield and Manchester cards for the UK, real bangers, top to bottom. And a huge night for Jordan Gill and Zelfa Barrett.
Yeah, you mentioned the winner there pretty much gets a world title shot. Where would you try and position them in?
You know, anyone. You got Lamont Roach, you know, looking for a big title. You got Joe Caldina, who's obviously fights May the 18th. See what happens with him moving up. Maybe Sugar Nunes gets his shot against one of those guys. So it's a massive fight for both, and I'm pretty sure the winner will get their shot.
You mentioned Rhiannon Dixon there fighting for the world title. Obviously one of Katie's old belts. We saw last week Chantel Cameron was very vocal across social media about the trilogy. Any news you can bring us?
No, I mean, there's a lot in play for Katie Taylor. You know, I think when you look at her future, the 3 big fights out there for her are Chantel Cameron, Amanda Serrano, and probably Alicia Baumgardner right now. And I expect her to fight all of those fights. She is going to fight in May. And if we can make the numbers work, it could be Chantel Cameron, but it could also be a mandatory defence back at the arena and then move into a fight soon after. Possibly Chantel Cameron, possibly Amanda Serrano, but she will fight Cameron or Serrano by the end of, I don't know, August, September at the very latest. So, you know, we've got a short period of time to strike for May, and there'll be an announcement in due course.
Some news overnight from one of the Mexican journos, I think his name's Salvador Rodriguez, who loves a scoop or two, suggesting that Bam Rodriguez and Estrada is close to being done. Any news on that?
This is a fight we've been working on for a long time. I think Estrada against Bam Rodriguez is just a stunner. You know, you keep seeing these small guys give us unbelievable nights. Of course, Estrada against Chocolatito so many times. Bam against Sonny last December was incredible. And Estrada against Bam is just a fight of the year contender written all over it. And June the 29th is the day before Mexico play. In the Copa del Rey in
Copa
Americas in Phoenix. And it would do a huge crowd there the night before. And Bam's up for the fight, Estrada's up for the fight. We're trying to close it off. It'll be a huge Mexican undercard there in in Phoenix as well. And hopefully we can get it over the line.
If that does come off, would Bam have to vacate his belts? How does that work?
He would move up.
Yep.
Yeah, he would move up, which, you know, could open the door for Sonny as well.
Estrada hasn't boxed for somewhat 18 months, I think. How telling could that be on the night?
Yeah, I think, you know, ideally he would have a run out, but at the end of the day, you know, the date's there. He's not a spring chicken. I don't think he needs to go through a certain amount of training camps. He's ready to fight. He's been ready to fight for a while. If he accepts the challenge of Bam Rodriguez, I think, like I said, it will give us a fight of the year.
And if it happens and Bam comes through, he then would have wiped out, 3 of the original 4 kings of the flyweight division alongside Rungvisai and Quadras.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, Quadras, saw Rungvisai, Sonny Edwards, Estrada, puts him pound for pound top 3. And, you know, like I said, we've really enjoyed being in Phoenix for fight nights, and that would do a huge crowd June 29th.
Just a couple more, and I appreciate we're jumping around a bit here. A couple of weeks earlier than that, 5 versus 5 started to gather pace. We saw some photos, and I understand there were some conversations last week. When can we expect to hear the lineups and weights?
Well, the filming has been done, and it will be down to His Excellency when that will be released. It will be imminent. At the moment, we've confirmed the weight classes, which you will see drop very shortly. And then there will be a press conference in the beginning of April in London, where the fighters will be revealed. And the fighters, Matchroom, Queensberry, His Excellency, won't know who they're facing or who the lineup is until the press conference on the day. There will be some very interesting reveals done. The idea of His Excellency, it's going to blow your mind. The promo is being shot with myself and Frank in London very soon. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we can't wait. You know, it's potentially, you know, he talked about potentially doing a second version of this event in London in September, which would be incredible. And this format's going to really be compelling. You know, I think it's going to really engage with the fight fans. Obviously, the rivalry is there. I'm desperate to win. Frank's desperate to win. And there's going to be some massive fights for our stable of fighters.
And presumably, Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev will be at the press conference as well?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, they're headlining the night, but not involved in the 5v5, so we'll have to see.
2 years ago today, Leigh Wood, Michael Conlon.
Yeah.
I saw Leigh last week in Riyadh, and he said he was hoping to catch up with you, but understood that you was a busy man. Did you manage to speak to him about what could be next?
Yeah, you know, I mean, really the plan is for Leigh. He was disappointed that Forrest wouldn't give the all clear on the big fight at the City Ground. But I think the Warrington rematch still makes great sense. You know, it's difficult doing that fight in an arena like Nottingham Arena when both guys are, you know, rightfully demanding a lot of money for that fight. But Josh Warrington wants to make a move, Leigh Wood wants to make a move, and our plan this week particularly is to make sure that we get those moving. Just
finally, Eddie, we've seen the last couple of days some of the Team GB guys have qualified for Paris. Have you already started to have a look and maybe have a back of your mind?
The scouting at Team GB is something that doesn't just happen before the Olympics, it happens years in advance. So congratulations to everyone that's qualified. We're keeping our eye not just on the ones that are qualified, but the ones that haven't qualified and the ones that are ready to turn pro. You know, we've seen in the past some of those guys are hungrier than the people that have been to the Olympics and have won medals. So it's an incredible achievement to even become an Olympian. It's something that will never be taken away from you. If you can medal and if it can be gold, you're in a great position to turn pro in a very thriving boxing market of the world. But some incredible fighters coming out of Team GB, and we'll be looking to add them to the Matchroom team over the next 6 months and year.
Well, Eddie, thanks for your time, and I guess stay tuned for more announcements, new shows and the like.